We're in the beautiful Virtue Bar at the Four Seasons in Tokyo. Presided over by the wonderful Keith and Michaela, not only is it celebrated as one of the best bars in Asia, but one of the best bars in the world. And I can't think of a more wonderful setting for being able to craft the cocktail inspired by our travels around Japan. So I'm going to build up layers, but the central focus is our Hibiki Japanese Harmony. But the beauty of this is celebrating it in a really straightforward, simple, stripped-back manner. So the heart of this is going to be a highball serve. It's one of my favorite styles of cocktail, something that's both a wonderful way to open out a blended whiskey, giving you something that reveals all those layers of flavor, but it's also the ideal drink to be able to share with friends. So we managed to pick up some of these incredible fruits from Nishimura-san. And it might not be that you're able to pick up wonderful, fanatically grown Japanese fruits from wherever you are. But as long as you're picking up something that's local or seasonal or one of your favorites, it's going to be an incredible accent to what we're building into the cocktail. But the key is also to look to the flavors at the heart of your whiskey. So within this, we were able to pick up some of these last season grapes and these dried persimmon. But the beauty of being able to pick up these notes is some of that fruitiness, some of that florality, that wonderful kind of juiciness that we found in the Hibiki Japanese Harmony. So I'm going to start by just taking some of these fruits, and these are wonderful. These are semi-dried, so it's concentrated some of the flavor. They still got that wonderful kind of floral, kind of tropical note. So we're going to chop these up, and we're going to pop these into a jar just to infuse. So we're not looking to get a big fruity pop out of this. It's not about making a fruit cocktail. It's simply about accenting some of the aspects of the whiskey. So over this, we're going to layer our whiskey. We're going to take 500 mils of our Hibiki Japanese Harmony and simply pour that over the fruit. This can leave to infuse for about 4 hours. You can do this in the fridge, you can leave it somewhere just out of sunlight. And essentially we're looking to just tease out some of those notes, pull in some of that fruitiness, and it brings a little bit of that kind of sweeter edge without making it feel confected or candied in any such way. So 4 hours have passed, and what we have is our beautiful whiskey infusion left to infuse at cold temperature. It's nothing to heat it through, but you're really just getting this wonderful lift of the fruity notes from within the whiskey. So it really smells quite wonderful, but whatever you want to accent in, the key is to not overtake the heart of the whiskey. These are subtle accents. They're not there to be able to kind of dominate too much. But what we're going to do is just strain them out, keep the fruit because you have delicious now boozy fruit. All we're going to do is simply strain out the mass, putting it through a tea strainer. So simply pour it through so it's nice and stable. So what we want to be able to do is harmonize the whiskey with some of these little accents around it. And we're going to do this as a bigger batch. And as we're in the beautiful Virtue Bar of the Four Seasons, we've gone a bit extra on our carafe. But essentially you just need a vessel, a jug, a pitcher, something that allows you to mix all the ingredients together, where we've got these little accents that are much easier to measure when you're doing them at large scale. So we have our wonderful shoyu from Sawai-san, 5th generation shoyu producer, producing these beautiful Kyoke barrels. So we don't need lots of this. It's not there to taste like shoyu in your cocktail. It's actually there to build this wonderful base note. Adds a richness, gives length to the drink, and it really kind of underpins some of this other fruitiness and some of the accents around it. As a highball, it just gives this wonderful kind of umami note, a little bit of extra length, and a bit of body. So 1 dash per drink. So as we're making a bottle for 10, I'm just gonna use a teaspoon of this beautiful shoyu. It's rich, so you don't need too much, but a teaspoon covers us for 10 serves. The next component we're going to use is a little touch of sugar. Now again, we don't need this to be a sweet drink. A highball is crisp and it's bright, and a part of that is that you don't need there to be lots of other sweetness around it. But what the sugar does is it helps us lift some of that fruitiness. Your aromas of that fruit coming off with none of the sugar to back it up, it can sometimes feel a little flat. So a little touch of sugar, we're using just over a teaspoon per drink, is going to be there to just give a little bit of an accent and balance against some of that richness that's coming from the shoyu. And again, this is very, very easy to be able to make at home. You're just simply mixing 1 part of water, warmed up, with 2 parts of sugar. So even if you don't have some of the traditionally brewed shoyu to be able to include, some regular soy sauce or even fish sauce or some Lyan Perrins, those little accents of a little bit of that kind of richness in the background are wonderful of giving an extra body to this cocktail. We're also going to use a little bit of fino sherry, so a dry style of sherry, nothing that's going to bring any sweetness. It actually brings this wonderful crisp olive note. Like, it's dry, it's got this wonderful acidity to it. It helps clean out the drink and give it some length. Again, there to hold those flavors on your palate a little longer. We're going to use a tablespoon, so 15 mils for each person's drink. So over 10, we're going to use 150 mils. If you haven't got this at home, some dry vermouth or even a really dry, crisp white wine will work great. 15 mils per drink. It's there just to give an extra bit of length to the cocktail. And then the heart of our drink, we have our infused whiskey. So this is going to be 45 mils per cocktail. So 450 mils that are going to go in of our strained batch. So our wonderful infused whiskey, adding that richness, that body, all of those kind of floral textures of the whiskey itself, overlaying with some of these kind of fruity accents just sitting around. So this is simply there to be able to be our wonderful batch. We're going to give it a little swirl. If you have one of these at home, you can give it a little trumpet blow to make sure it's all carefully mixed together. But essentially this should be an easy mix, much easier to measure than doing it a la minute, but very easy to be able to put together as a single cocktail if you need to. The beauty of this is we can serve a big group. So we're going to take our bottle, a nice clean, empty whiskey bottle, water bottle, wine bottle, whatever you have, and we're simply going to decant this into the bottle. Woohoo, didn't break crap. So what we then have is this beautiful batch bottle. This is stable. The whiskey is going to keep it nice and preserved, keep it out of sunlight, but essentially this is good to go whenever you have a friend drop by. You need to be able to put together a highball, you're simply pouring this out, topping it with soda. But what's really beautiful about this, and a real nod to some of the things we learned from Nishimura-san, which is this idea of the importance of gifting and how things that are perishable actually really tie into the wonder of actually there's a transience, there's this real single moment in time about being able to gift somebody something. So the idea of being able to take this bottle and add your own little label to it. So something where you can be able to kind of personalize it. And what we managed to pick up was these beautiful kind of sheets of washi paper. A nod to the kind of label on the Hibiki bottle, crafted with such care, where you can write your own little greeting, something on there that nods to this sense of personalization, this gift that can be something to pass on to somebody, talks about that sense of hospitality, that care, those details, but it's personal. So we have our beautiful bottle. It's an easy way of putting together the drink, but we're going to serve it much in the way that we were taught by Ueno-san. A wonderful way of keeping the simplicity, the stripped back nature of a highball. So we're going to build this in our very beautiful, clean Japanese highball glass. If you've not got one of these at home, any straight-sided, narrow ideally, highball glass keeps the carbonation. This narrow aperture means that you keep all of the freshness of the bubbles. But anything that's not too big, you don't want to serve this in a pint glass. It's hard to be able to get the balance right in that manner. But what we're going to do is we're going to serve, as the base of our drink, 50 mils, just shy of 2 ounces, as the heart of the cocktail. And that's got everything metered out already into it. You have the whiskey, you have that little accent of the fino sherry, you have the shoyu being able to bring some of the base, and the sugars just tying it all together as we layer in our fruitiness over the top of the cocktail. So we're going to serve this over these wonderful cubes of ice. The key is to be able to get good quality ice. Now, if you can't get handcrafted, beautiful Japanese ice where you are at home, just freeze your own ice cubes. These are much better to be able to use than bagged ice. They'll last longer into your drink. You'll get much more of that journey of the cocktail that we really want to be able to have. So we're going to layer in lots of these large cubes. That's going to keep things at their freshest. And we're going to stir just a little, making sure that we have everything in contact. And as Ueno-san taught us, just being able to pop that on the side before we add in another cube just over the top. So we have some very cold, very crisp soda. These small bottles are ideal. They keep the carbonation fresher. If you get it very, very cold, it keeps the carbonation in there. Now, ideally, you're getting this wonderful premium soda that is from Yamazaki. It's really the principle of what kind of grows together, goes together. We're marrying in the water that was the source of making the whiskey, the reason why that distillery was situated in that wonderful, serene setting just out of Kyoto. But any good quality soda water is what you want to be able to have. You want there to be that bright effervescence, that real sparkle to it. And the key is to get it really, really cold. So it's going to keep that all in there. So crack it fresh. And as Ueno-san taught us, pour with confidence on these things. The key is to be able to kind of maintain all of that freshness, not knock the bubbles out too much. So we're going to pour our very cold soda water, and then we're just going to pull the ice to give a little lift, make sure everything's incorporated and ready to drink. So you have this wonderful effervescence, lifting those flavors out. You get all of the layers of flavor of the Hibiki Japanese Harmony. The key to this is the first sip is going to be different to the last. We want there to be this journey to it. And so just being able to give a little bit of kind of a greener accent, a local herb. We have some wonderful bamboo herb leaf from Japan. And this drink is really there to be able to bring people together. That was the thing that we saw at the heart of the hospitality. Highballs to me are ideal for that. They're there to socialize over. They're different as you drink through it. It gives you time as a cocktail. And that's what felt so special as we were traveling around Japan. Everybody had put so much of their care and attention into everything that they had crafted. So I wanted to be able to have a drink that not only celebrated that, but really talked to the idea of what is at the heart of the food and drink scene here. And it really was the highball. So this is called the Honshu Highball. It celebrates the central island of Japan because we were picking up accents from all over the country. It wasn't just from the whiskey in Kyoto, it was the inspiration of being in Tokyo, learning about the Ginza bartending style. It was some of these ingredients that we picked up along our travels. But the key was to be able to have something that felt like a beautiful celebration of this philosophy and this wonderful, deep thinking approach that is everywhere across the country. It was such a joy to be able to be back here in Japan, and I hope this is a way of trying to summarize all of the amazing things we saw along our trip.